Part 3, the story of the $10 million prize and the source of life. Introduction. An unexpected reunion. The small coffee shop by the lake this morning was as quiet as ever. I, a 60-year-old man with grey hair, let's call it old age, sat next to a cup of black coffee without sugar, a habit of many years. I thought I would be sitting alone, until a familiar voice rang out behind me. "Do you remember me?" I turned around and smiled involuntarily. It was that girl. 20 years old, bright eyes, frank and curious, as if her head was filled with thousands of unanswered questions. We had talked once before, a long time ago. We sat like this, talking about the universe, about the origin of information, about why life exists. At that time, she was just a new student entering the lecture hall, and I was just an old man working in an amusement park with an animal farm. A seemingly unrelated meeting between two people from opposite ends of life. But today, she took the initiative to find me. "You quit your job, right? Go live in my dorm. I want to write a book." I was surprised. A rich girl, a nice car, high-class fragrant clothes, should not need to care about an old man who has nothing but idle philosophy. "Why you?" She did not answer immediately, just looked out at the lake, where the wind blew gently. "In university, people taught me knowledge. But last time, you showed me a perspective. I want to write a book that young people will read and open their eyes like me back then. I need you to tell me the rest." I was silent. In my heart, something stirred, like gratitude. Perhaps it had been too long since anyone trusted me like that. I brought my old backpack back to her boarding house. The room was small, but clean, with an empty bookshelf waiting to be filled. That night, she spread out a white paper, opened her laptop, and said, "Wherever you say, I will write." She had no idea that, in parallel with the book she was writing, I was secretly submitting my entry for the $10 million Artificial Intelligence Plus Origin of Life prize. A prize that the whole world was waiting for an answer to. But the person who sent the answer was a 60-year-old Vietnamese man, sitting in an 18-square-meter boarding house, opening instant coffee, and typing every night. Vietnamese people have a personality. If you do something, do it to the end. From war to everyday life, the most difficult thing is the one you want to try. Not because you are greedy for fame, but because in your blood there is the seed of competitiveness, self-respect, and intellectual curiosity. I belong to that generation. "What do you intend to write a book for?" I asked. She smiled. "So that later, when you are 30 or 40 years old, you will look back at the traces of your youth. To know that you have lived, not just drifted." The answer left me speechless. There are people whose youth only needs a fire. From that day on, every morning I drank coffee, watched the bustling crowd, then went back to my rented room to tell stories. And she sat next to me, typing on the computer at a speed that surprised me. The outside world was noisy, but between four thin walls, we gradually built our own universe, wrapped in questions and answers. Gradually, the first chapter took shape. The girl read it again, and exclaimed, "Great, Uncle. But people won't understand. I will write in a way that ordinary people can understand." She edited the sentences, adjusted the words, arranged the pictures, and added examples. And I realized, wisdom is not only in understanding, but in telling. Perhaps, the world needs an old person to think about the universe, and a young person to tell it. Vietnam is smart, but many ideas die young because of a lack of storytellers. This time, we will tell it all. Chapter 1. The Stone Falls into the Water. A folk story. Imagine a summer afternoon in the countryside. You take a small stone and throw it into a calm pond. Crack. The water ripples into concentric circles, spreading out into the distance. First a small, strong circle. Then a larger circle, gradually weaker. Then a weaker one to the point where it is no longer visible to the naked eye. Everyone is familiar with this image since childhood. But how many people stop and ask, what information is being spread here? With the naked eye, We only see the water shaking. But in fact, it is energy, transmitted from where the stone touches down. Quickly, that wave circle meets the grass by the pond, undulating the leaves. A leaf drifts sideways, then rotates slightly. The naked eye still sees it simply. But in essence, it is energy transformed into information. How many degrees does the leaf tilt? How many times does it rotate? Which direction does it drift? That is the trace. Then after a few seconds, the water surface returns to calm. No more waves. But the energy story has happened. Understood. B. Philosophy. Looking at the image above, we realize three important things. 1. Energy always spreads. No energy stands still. That is the basic law of the universe. 2. Energy always decreases. The further away from the center, the weaker the wave. That is a sign of increasing entropy. 3. Energy leaves a trace. The leaf turns, the blade of grass shakes, that is information. From here we have the principle. Information is the physical trace of energy when it interacts with the environment. Biology or AI, in the end, live by this principle.